It was supposed to be the president's first massive campaign rally since March, with 1 million tickets requested. Instead, as you see here, President Trump's gathering at the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which normally holds 19,000 visitors, was attended by just about 6,200 people, that according to Tulsa city officials. Now some of TikTok's 315 million global users claim they were the ultimate buzzkill behind the empty seats at the Trump rally, after TikTokers said they intentionally sabotaged the event by registering en masse with no intention of showing up, and they spread the word via TikTok. Now, could the Chinese video sharing platform be coming for Facebook next? We bring in Michael Pachter, Wedbush Securities. First, Michael, from what you've been able to analyze over the past 48 hours, was it TikTok shenanigans that left so many seats empty in Tulsa at the rally?
You know, I don't know that we can blame the million requests for the empty seats. I mean, I think it's entirely plausible that there were people who intended to go but had heard that there would be 100,000 people showing up with, 80,000 overflow and decided not to deal with the crowds. It was pretty well televised. I mean, we were watching it several hours before the event when that Black Lives Matter protester was arrested, and you could see that the area was largely empty. So I don't really buy that. I think that, in fact, there probably were 800,000 goof requests, but I think people probably just thought better of going into an enclosed area, with a lot of people not wearing masks and worried about perhaps contracting the virus. And remember, Tulsa is a small place, so it's not like there really were 1 million people within driving distance of Tulsa that were going to show up.
Well, that's why it was a little perplexing, but the Trump group had said and really pushed it and said, we're going to have so many people registered, and where are we going to put all these people? They had the exterior sort of overflow area, but it didn't come to pass. The fact is that TikTok has shown it can flex muscle. So I need to ask you, who follows Facebook, covers Facebook, how worried should Facebook be? Because TikTok is one of the top 5 most downloaded apps globally that aren't owned by Facebook.
And growing at a ridiculous rate. So, Facebook has to be worried that any competing social platform has 300 million users, 30 million in the U.S., so it's pretty impressive. But, at 30 million in the U.S., it's about half the size of Twitter. It's a small fraction of the size of Facebook. I think they would love to be a monopoly. I think they acknowledge that they can do things better, like video, like music. Today, they just announced that they're picking up the Mixer video game viewing platform from Microsoft. So, there's a lot of different areas that Facebook needs to improve, and they're making an effort. TikTok's going to exist. They're going to exist and thrive. This prank, and I think it was more of a prank than an activist move, does show you the power of the platform, shows you how viral a funny idea like let's sabotage the rally can go, and it happened pretty quickly. The thing I'm shocked about is that the campaign was unaware this was going on.
Well, it's possibly the new world. And we should just let people know, TikTok is not publicly traded. It's owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, B-Y-T-E. The new CEO just came, Kevin Mayer, from Disney. And that, to me, he's a proven operator. So expect big things from this company. But would you buy the shares pre-IPO? There are ways to do that.
Kevin Mayer was what pushed me over the edge. That guy is the real deal. He was what most people thought would be the successor to Iger. And so he could have had one of the best jobs in media, and he left to take this. He is a sharp cookie. So absolutely, this company is going to grow and be worth a ton. I don't know what the pre-IPO valuation is, so I can't tell you if it's a good deal or not. But, at a price, of course, I would be very interested in the business.
Gary Vaynerchuk of VaynerMedia had an opportunity to actually interview, and he had said, quote, "For me, there is no better place to go to sell to Gen Z than TikTok right this second, because the scale of attention at that age level is remarkable." He said he was fascinated by how people can miss hundreds of millions who are using something And that to me immediately says, uh-oh, just start advertising on TikTok. Why waste your dollars on Instagram at this point?
Well, they're the first generation that actually was born in the cell phone era, so they actually grew up with a cell phone or an iPad in their hands. And he's right. I mean, Gary is one of the smartest guys out there, smartest tech investors out there. If you want to capture this Zoomer audience, that's the place to go. They're not on Facebook because all their friends, are within 2 miles of where they live. But, Facebook owns the olds like you and me. They own people over, 30. Snap is kind of dominant in that under 30 area. And I think TikTok's a bigger threat to Snap than it is to the other two.
The founder of TikTok had said that Facebook seemed very interested in the early years in this app that he had created. To me, it looks like Facebook tries to capture and then kill any whiff of a competitor out there. This must have gotten their attention. What do you think Mark Zuckerberg's thinking right now about all of this news, whether it was or was not the TikTok group that were able to cause some empty seats at that Trump rally?
Kill is a bit of an overstatement. I mean, Instagram has done just fine since they bought them, and so has WhatsApp. And they tried to buy Twitter, at a much lower valuation. I think Facebook would be very interested in buying TikTok. I think that our elected officials would probably block that. I mean, we have the Justice Department talking about antitrust actions against Facebook just for being too big. So I don't actually think they could pull it off. What they will probably do is emulate TikTok just the way they emulated Snap with Instagram stories. So I expect that you'll see a TikTok-like feature on Facebook within a matter of months. And I'm sure that that's what they're doing right this second. But this caught us all by surprise. I mean, nobody realized they could mobilize that type of action that quickly.
Michael Pachter of Wedbush, we so appreciate you coming on. I knew you'd come with your A game because this was a hot story. You've been covering these social media names. Thanks for giving us the perspective. We appreciate it. Good to see you.